His shoulders are a little lower, with his hat in hand, asking for money from Congress after he said he didn't need Congress. So maybe this is an overdue time for the Senate to have some spine and implement checks and balances. But this is an example of how not to do things, and our country doesn't learn its lessons.
Hegseth has said midnight hammer so many times, I'm beginning to suspect the job he has there is to name the military operations. Joining our live ongoing coverage is Paul Rieckhoff. He's the host of the Independent Americans podcast. He's the founder and CEO of Independent Veterans of America. Also joining our ongoing coverage, senior national security reporter David Rhodes. Tom Nichols is still with us. We've lost Miles Taylor for the moment, but let me bring you in, Paul Rieckhoff, on what we've been watching.
Your expectation, having been to those,
the country's exasperated. Welcome to our newest quagmire. Unpopular, unauthorized, unencumbered until now. We're going to hear a lot about financial figures, but I want to keep coming back to the most important piece, which is the human cost of war. Pete Hegseth didn't have an accurate number of how many were killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's about 7,000. And I think we don't talk enough about the human beings who are impacted by this. 3 now service members were killed just over the weekend. The Department of Defense just named the latest casualty, Sergeant Michael Emmanuel Swinton, who was killed in Iraq, not even in Iran, and 2 others were killed in Jordan. He was from North Carolina. He was 30 years old. He had a wife and a young daughter. The human cost is what should be first and foremost on the minds of most Americans, and I hope members of the Senate. I don't think we've heard enough about the people who are impacted. Roughly 50,000 U.S. troops are in harm's way, 40% of our Navy, and there's no end in sight here. There's an old saying that first you commit the country, then you commit the troops, if you're going to do it right. Today is what happens when you commit the troops first and you don't commit the country and you don't commit Congress. So now here is Hegseth in a different kind of posture than we've seen him before. His shoulders are a little lower, with his hat in hand, asking for money from Congress after he said he didn't need Congress. So maybe this is an overdue time for the Senate to have some spine and implement checks and balances. But this is an example of how not to do things, and our country doesn't learn its lessons. So the Senate should have voted no on the war if it had a chance when it started. They didn't, but they should vote now, because that's where the country is, and more by the day, especially as American men and women continue to die.
Rieckhoff, we covered this reporting yesterday about the American people's judgment. They have decided, I think the Atlantic story said, Tom Nichols, maybe you wrote this story, that it took the American people 6 years to revile, was the word used in the Atlantic, the war with Vietnam, as quickly as they have come to revile the war against Iran in less than 6 months. What does that mean inside the military to have 70% of the American people oppose the war?
It means they don't support what we're doing. I mean, it's so basic, but still so outrageous. Even this hearing today pisses me off because they're there next to the agriculture secretary talking about meatpacking. Like, this is how broken our system is that they circumvented the entire system. And now we've got this joint hearing next to the agriculture secretary. They're not even talking about casualties. They're not even, Hegseth, you can't believe anything Hegseth says. Like, let's just talk about that, right? He's spinning, he's doing the culture war stuff, but he's also not transparent about the objectives on the ground or the casualties that have been suffered. What I'm waiting for a senator to ask him is about the New York Times reporting that revealed that they're undercounting the wounded. They're not being transparent about the wounded that they're posting online. They even got the numbers of KIA wrong on some of the government sites that they've been posting. They're not getting the wounded and the dead accurate. And that is maybe most fundamental to why we can't trust them. We know we can't trust this government on ICE. We know we can't trust them on crowd numbers. You can't trust them on anything, but you also now know you can't trust them on how many American men and women are being wounded and potentially killed. That's what I want someone to put the pressure on Hegseth about today. And if he won't answer it, pivot and go to General Kane and ask him that question. Why can't they get the numbers of wounded right? That's something all Americans need to know. Independent Americans. If you watch or listen to the show, you know the 2026 primaries are taking shape. You also know you can trade on the biggest political races on Kalshi. With Kalshi, you can trade on major primaries, election outcomes, and the biggest political storylines as they happen. And it's primary season, going into the biggest midterms ever. So you can trade on, for example, the Maine Senate election. Graham Plattner is out now. Troy Jackson will be up against Susan Collins. Right now, Susan Collins is trading at 36%, which means a $100 trade would pay out $265.86 if she wins that election, which is right now where I'm putting my money. The big one, who will be the presidential nominees? On the Democratic side, Gavin Newsom trading at 19%, meaning a $100 wager will earn you out $473.45 if you want to get on the Gavin Newsom bandwagon, or AOC, Rahm Emanuel, Buttigieg, Andy Beshear, Mark Kelly. Who do you think it's going to be? They're all up there. And on the Republican side, J.D. Vance trading at 40%, meaning a $100 wager will earn you out $239.90 if J.D. Vance becomes the nominee. Donald Trump Jr. is up there. Donald Trump himself is up there. Tucker Carlson, Ivanka Trump trading at 1.3%. They're all there. And finally, a fun one. Will the U.S. confirm that aliens exist? Because this year, you never know. If you say it's before 2027, there is a 7.2% chance. If you say before 2029, that is trading at 24%, meaning you will earn on a $100 wager $388.29. So you have more money in your pocket when the aliens get here. Look, on Kalshi, you can trade against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. As the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your positions. And for a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use the code INDEPENDENT. That's independent like independent Americans to get $10 when you trade 10. Kalshi, Kalshi, trade on anything. 18 and older, restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Even contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and availability in the markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Independent Americans, there is a lot going on, and you can trade on all of it on Kalshi.
Paul Rieckhoff, some sharp questioning there from Senator Gillibrand. Your thoughts?
The outrage is appropriate and overdue. I think Americans across this country are outraged by this war. They didn't support it in the beginning. They're supporting it less and less by the day. I think the politicians are actually behind where the country is on this, especially some of her Republican colleagues. I think the question for all of them now is, okay, what if they keep going forward and you deny them this funding? How are you going to stop the war? Can you stop the war? Because I've said for months that Trump's been all gas, no brakes. He's just going to keep going until he's stopped. So even if he doesn't get this funding that is in part to replenish munitions and weapons that they're using on the battlefield, he's going to still keep going. So I think the question for every senator is how do we stop him? He circumvented the process. We don't have a declaration of war. They passed the War Powers Act. But here we are now. And this could drag on until the end of his presidency. I mean, if there's not a change of course, I could see this being a top topic for the next race for president. We've been here before. And that's maybe what's most infuriating for most Americans is it feels like deja vu all over again. Here we are again, another quagmire and another Congress that doesn't seem to be able to stop it.
He tells me the left and right are dreams for those without a clue. And when you wake, it's time to grow. And it's not cool to believe in school, but if I can say one thing, I've seen the children of the revolution and the good trouble they can bring. He says the red and blue are dead and independent is an attitude. An island in the sea of rhetoric and archipelago. He tells me the left and right are dreams for those without a clue. And when you wait, it's time to grow.
Powered by Righteous Media.